Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, folks, wherever this call finds you. Thanks so much for joining us. My name's Sam Yurley. I'm a solution engineer here at Front, and we're really excited to get into the webinar content today, Revolutionizing Freight. We'll be focusing on 6 workflows to boost efficiency and fight fraud. And you're not just going to hear me talk the entire hour. I'm joined by some amazing panelists, Will and Steve. Will, I'll pass it over to you to introduce yourself.
Thanks, Sam. Appreciate you having Highway on, and Steve. Always great to see you and get to work with you. Will Vandekamp, SVP of Product and Strategic Partnerships at Highway. Just a little bit of background. I've been in the kind of brokerage logistics space about 16 years prior coming to Highway, 2.5 years ago, and since then I've kind of led the Highway group within our implementations within partners and brokers and trying to connect the highway information and the power, that's within that data to prevent some fraud activity to other technology partners, that brokers use on a day-to-day basis, such as Front. And so really excited to get to kind of, really tag along here on a lot of Steve's hard work. And Steve, I'll pass that over to you. But yeah, super excited. Thanks again, Sam, for having us on.
Yeah, thanks, Sam. And Will, Steve Bonder with ATS Logistics. We're based out of Cincinnati. Going into year 8, came out of sporting goods industry. So unlike everybody else I've met that has been in freight for 30 years and they're 40 years old, I still feel like I'm new. I started off on our truckload operations team and just kind of help develop a new position here and a new need for us at ATS as truckload strategy manager and uh, front and then carrier vetting. Both came to the forefront as things that we can use and really need to use. So I've taken the lead on both of those for our truckload team.
Awesome. Thanks, Steve. Yeah, and again, I'm from Front. If you don't know Front, we're a communication collaboration platform for brokers. And I know a lot of you have seen you at conferences and whatnot, so welcome back. But if you're new, welcome for the first time. And let's get into things. Just a quick lay of the land for our agenda today. We'll start by setting the table with some service expectations overview, brief overview of probably stuff you all already know. You live and breathe this every day. But from there, we'll really get into the meat of things, studying communication workflows to help streamline operations, fighting fraud, and how we can leverage Highway to do that, as well as how we can bring risk management workflows into our inbox to fight fraud as well. And we'll wrap with some Q&A at the end. So if you have questions, please leverage the Q&A functionality in the Zoom webinar. We'll be doing our best to answer all of those at the end of the session today. And really, just to reiterate, the goal is just to have a great conversation. Steve has done most of the hard work here. Will and I just to get to jump in and just highlight that and celebrate that. And so we're excited to show you something that maybe you haven't thought of before, or maybe you're already using Front and Highway, and maybe there's some new ways or new ideas that this sparks. And that's really just the goal of this webinar here today. So with that, lay of the land. I hate to start on a bummer note, but it's still quite a challenging freight market out there. I don't have to tell you all this. Early data is signaling that peak season might be a little bit slower than expected. Costs are still really high and rates are low, so competition is really tight. Margins are thin, and really any differentiation we can get, whether that's efficiency driven, speed, is critical. And so, given the extent of the market today, we've found from all of the conversations that we've had with all of you is that 3PLs must prioritize service quality in order to win business. And so, a big part of that is speed, right? You're 3x more likely to win business by being the first to respond. We all know that real well. There's a 10-point potential revenue uptick when we invest in service quality as a differentiator. And as we all know, everything's relational. It's about trusting who you're doing business with. And so 78% of businesses are more loyal when they can trust your service quality. And that comes, with timely responses. That comes with, a lack of claims because, we're fighting fraud and things are getting delivered and shipped on time. So that's the goal. But obviously, there's still roadblocks holding 3PLs back today. And we kind of bucket them into 3 main categories. The first is just legacy technology, right? Your email's living in one system, carrier vetting is somewhere else. Who knows what the state of our TMS looks like? Maybe we've built our own to try and accommodate for our business processes, but we're scattered across different pieces of technology. There's manual duct tape and glue to stitch those things together, and sticky notes and taps on the shoulder and the Teams channel that you can't get out of. And then these systems also don't talk to each other, right? So there's no seamless flow of information, which just slows you down. And again, leads to it being easier to drop the ball. And really, in light of all of this, through conversations with Steve and the ATS team, they've pioneered some really powerful ways to leverage front and highway to streamline their communication workflows and accelerate their operations. And so we've chatted with Steve and we've kind of identified 6 challenges and 6 workflows that he's developed to help, his teams at ATS be more efficient when it comes to communicating and fighting fraud. So without further ado, let's jump in. First challenge is the distro group chaos that might slow teams down. If when we were at a TIA earlier this year, there was a ton of head nods. If you've gone to the bathroom and you have 500 emails in your inbox, you kind of know what we're talking about. But Steve, I'd love for you to just bring this to light a little bit more. Tell us about kind of the old way of doing things at ATS.
Yeah, I think like a lot of other teams, we were using a distribution list, which gave everyone a copy of the same emails. We were calling out accounts, sitting in a room together. Sometimes we were skipping over them on accident. Other times, 2 people quoted. We just hoped that we were close enough that it made sense. We didn't have to explain like why somebody said 1,000, somebody else said 900. It's really fumble all over each other a lot. And then two, we were, you know, even as we tried to split up into teams, we were still seeing, if it was 1,000 emails a day, I was only really supposed to see 300 of them. So then I had to do something with the other 600. And then if you're someone who's a problem solver, sometimes you were sort of dragged into maybe 100 extra of those, and you had to keep track of like, oh yeah, that's the one I need to see what's going on with. So really, it was a mess for time wasted, um, and sometimes actually having issues to where we didn't respond or respond twice, which can cause an issue.
Yeah, especially if someone's saying 900 and someone's saying 1,000, that's going to have someone raising an eyebrow.
Right, right,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
exactly.
and totally hear you. Like not everyone needs to see everything. Really, there's responsible individuals that need to be owning what they're responsible for. And so just in light of that, how were you able to kind of create a new version of this? What was the solution here?
Well, and even if we dragged them all away, then we still had 300 that we were seeing, and I might only be working on 100 of those. So with Front, we were able to use a combination of the accounts or domains, depending on how it was built, um, and filter in with one email address, so we didn't have to tell our customers, hey, you have 4 emails depending on which team you're on. It's one email coming in. We take care of the filtering. It puts us in front of the people that need to see it. Also, you have the ability to assign it within the team with some notes from our HubSpot integration. So really just stepped up our game tremendously in that aspect.
Totally, totally. And I think we have a video, if we want to bring this to life just a little bit more, but talking about that assignment and then maybe walk me through kind of what we're seeing here in real time.
Yeah, sure. It comes in. We use routing. Again, it could be domain based or the account itself. So front, you can create accounts. It's routed to the right team. Here we have some notes as well from our HubSpot integration that allows our sales team to add a note to help escalate if needed. As these emails come in too, it also identifies who the sales rep is and gives them a copy as well. In our old system, they were also involved in those 1,000 emails and had to find the ones for their accounts. So they were also involved in the mess. So now even if the sales rep isn't copied in, they get a copy that they're able to see. Here we have a new customer alert, so that automatically assigned it to me as a team lead, and some notes as well to help us along the way. It's a new account here, but I know now that it's always a flatbed and they don't need tarp, so I don't have to beat up a new account with 20 questions and they just want to rate.
Yeah, 100%. Like you get handed off to somebody new and then it's, down that laundry list of questions again and
Yeah, and they're just like, oh no, like
not this again. Yeah,
right.
I love it. So
From
yeah,
a Oh, sorry,
well,
Sam.
yeah.
Yeah, I was going to jump in with a question there for you, Steve. Like, just kind of harping back on my old days of having like seeing this come in, and like you go into CRMs or you go into ask the new CSR because it's an account you haven't heard of. Like, that's, I don't know, depending on what it is, anywhere from a minute to 15 minutes to kind of get somebody here back. Just to see the automation here and that workflow happening like in seconds, milliseconds is like that's just a huge win for employees too, to not just feel overwhelmed and have
Right. Well, yeah,
like,
at first
legitimate.
impression, right? And then if we're really solid as we respond, we might say, "Hey, I talked to our sales rep, and he told us you guys are always flatbeds." To give some depth as
Yeah,
well if needed. Plus, it just helps us to not have to ask the question.
right. You don't have to ask the question. You don't have to go somewhere else to look for it. It's like it's here, and you've already, the sales people being kind of auto copied back on this stuff is huge too. Just to remember, who is that salesperson? Do I have the right person on there? Oh, it's different region, different quoting, all
Yeah.
kinds of different setups, right? So, I mean, this workflow number one's got my thumbs up.
Love it. Endorsed by Will. And that's something I hear all the time too, is oftentimes there's this hesitation to move to this assignment model or move to like, wait, no, I need to see everything. I think that's the great part of front is there's granular controls to understand, well, actually, who are the people that need to be tagged in for visibility's sake? But then if they don't need to have visibility, we can just remove that from their plate, right? Steve, to your points, they can focus
Yeah,
on.
absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. Love
Yeah,
it.
I mean, I don't know how many rabbit holes I got down to on like group emails that you're like not responsible for, but then you're like spending 30 minutes of like this, what am I doing here? And I'm not doing my job. So,
Right.
uh,
Yeah. Like,
Reading
am
through
I
the thread.
responsible? Or, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, totally.
yeah,
Um, I love it. And this internal comment that's coming in from HubSpot, I think this is actually a great segue to kind of the second challenge that we had talked about, Steve, which was just fragmented communication channels. Every time you turn your head, there's a new way to talk to people in a business app. And oftentimes, in communication heavy workflows, like 3PLs do all day, every day, communication is critical to coordinate cross-functionally, the CSR to, the broker team, but then also just back and forth with the shipper. And so something we've talked about, Steve, but help me understand, how are you doing these internal comms to coordinate before front? What did that picture look like?
Um, Maybe getting up and walking. If sales rep was in the office, so we do have a team of reps here that are boots on the ground and in other cities as well. So they aren't always just there. Might call or text, or we would just have to ask 10 questions, hope the customer would give us the answers, or we would just have to quote in a way that was just kind of vague, covered our bases.
Yeah, totally. Like that, those pieces of context that are really important to delivering a stellar experience are just scattered again across like in-person comms, calls and text messages, and there's no kind of traceable like history. How did you solve this today? Was this look like today for you all?
Yeah, so we're able to see here in that same email chain, we are able to chat right with the sales rep. So here, commodity, sometimes it's important, sometimes it's not. Flatbeds, that tends to become, a real important aspect of it, especially if it would happen to need tarps, which it doesn't here. But we're able to chat right in the email chain, right to the sales rep. They may not be able to respond. But even on their phone, they're able to hop in, answer a question if possible. It stays right in that email chain. It's not over in Teams or in a text or somewhere else. So it stays right there. That way, if someone else ends up in this email as well tomorrow, if we win the load, they can see the all the questions as well if they're relevant.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I think again, we've got another video to show you maybe more what this looks like
Yeah,
in
I think we have
on.
that
Yeah,
live. Yeah. So they're shared with the rep, and I'm able to ask a question.
love it. It's like Teams and email had a baby, and it's all in one place.
Right. Yeah, and again, it's nice because they can see it as well. So as the email chain continues, it's right there for them. And some of those questions are really, if this would happen to have needed tarps, knowing it's building materials and not machinery that might need edge protection on the tarps, and it could really add to a quote. So if you can gain any knowledge there as well, it's helpful.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. So I'm thinking too, like even like projects or longer term stuff where you've like the cycle time on those responses are kind of back and forth, right? Like trying to go back and find the context. I remember I used to do a lot of pricing and you'd go back and oh, what did we do submit back then? Like what was that? What was the conversation about? Like why did we put that right there again? And you're going back to emails
Yeah,
and you're trying to figure out like why did we negotiate this thing down? And like I don't know, like this probably would have I could it's like a second employee I could have had if
yeah,
this was here. I mean, the time spent over the years trying to track that stuff down. So I don't know. Again, like this just like reinforces like all of the efficiency as well as like the opportunity to automate and to make, people, proactive versus reactive, right? Instead of like, okay, I got 1,000 emails, now I got to go react to what all those are, or there's 1,000 quotes and I got to go figure out which one I did 6 months ago. Um, so yeah, no, this is super cool. And Steve, yeah, like the foresight to kind of think about all the capabilities between the two and to ultimately put it all together. Super helpful for your team, I'm sure.
yeah, yeah. No more forwarding emails about emails or yeah, side
Did the right person get on
conversations,
this? Yeah, it's
right.
copying the distro and then getting 100 more messages. It's a thing of the past. Um, Love it. Yeah. And I guess just moving into challenge three, we touched earlier on manual processes, right? Like there's a number of different technologies that folks need to touch in order to do their job every day, whether that's TMS, highway for fraud, your inbox, and context switching back and forth just takes time. And so, AI is kind of everywhere in the world, and we'll get to that in a second. But just maybe, Steve, help me understand what those manual processes look like today and how you're accelerating, your team's workflow inside of Front today.
Yeah. Well, we're able to connect with Ty, our TMS, with the API as well. So we're able to cut out having to switch screens all the time, um, bring in information that we need, as well as connecting from front to Ty as well. Same thing that we do with Highway as well. That just helps clean up every process and anything for us that we're able to speed up while gaining efficiency with workflows as well. Just makes sense to us.
Totally. And yeah, I think we have a quick video of a response here that we can just embellish with AI. Um,
Yeah,
and then we'll get into touch and TMS and read writing data there as well. Um, but yeah, I think Steve, to your point, this is something we talked about. You're having a bad day, or like you just need to move quicker through your inbox. Um,
yeah,
Leveraging this compose feature, right, to just get something a little more polished out faster. Yeah.
yeah. sends at night, that way if you are, sometimes everyone has a tendency to give a, a 3-word response. Um, right. And then also showing the snooze option there where you want to make sure that it reminds you to complete a task if that quote is eighth in line. I mean, sometimes you can't just hop on and do it immediately.
Mhm.
So make sure that it reopens in your inbox to remind you to stay on task and get that completed.
Totally. Yeah, setting reminders in front to follow up on things. If you've quoted something but you don't get a response for, 2, 3 hours, you want to send a little follow up. That's,
Right. It's
something
not
that
a post-it. It's not something you end up with like 30 post-its and it's like, which one of these was
rubber
from
band on your wrist.
today?
Yeah,
Yeah,
totally.
exactly.
And I think something to plug there too, like at front, we're thinking about more ways to leverage AI in your communication workflows, especially for folks in the logistics space. There's a lot of if then that types of decisions that need to be made, or decisions based off of, lanes or lane data and things like that too. So a lot of exciting stuff. We could talk for much longer about that. But Steve, you mentioned the TMS, and I think this is also just a huge place, where people are context switching. So help me understand kind of the before state of this, because I think there's a lot of time spent, right? Or you maybe used to be for your org going back and forth between their inbox and your TMS.
Yeah, sure. If you would get an opportunity to quote, you would have to go open up your TMS if you're trying to track the quote, as well as possibly another quoting tool. So you're having to enter zip codes everywhere, each spot, equipment, take it all back in. Searching to try to find the customer in your TMS as well. So just a lot of clicks, 3 or 4 screens open at all times, and it can just be very confusing and time consuming as well.
Yeah. No, I bet I wish I could have this many monitors sometimes, because I feel like even still I'm drowning in tabs. But
Yeah.
even tabs is too many.
Yeah.
It'd be nice to just have one place to work, and that's something I think that you've been able to accomplish, and it's actually been one of the really cool things that we've gotten to work on together. So I would love for you to just bring that to light for folks here. How are you solving this context switching challenge today?
Yes, one of the things that we're able to do because of the combination of HubSpot and Kai as well. Uh, we're capturing the email of of the customer, which identifies the account, so we can quickly then use a macro in front, and all we need is equipment type, each of the zip codes, and a date, and hit submit. That is then creating a quote for us in Thai. Our team is still hopping in there to see integrations from green screens and other partners that help us decide the rate as well. But instead of again having to go in and search the account and put in all the information, it's really quick here. This also allows us to jump right into the workflow that we need to capture all our data, right? So you have guys would hop in to build a quote, and if they forget one step of that, I don't know that there's been a quote. I don't
Yeah.
know that the load that's won was a quote. So using this automatically throws a tag in to I and starts that workflow process that eliminates the loads that you just miss, and you figure out 6 months later, like, oh, there's like 200 quotes that we didn't know we did. So it helps again to condense it all, and it's faster. Like I tell guys, like I'll race you from an email if you want to try to build it outside the email. We'll race and we'll see who's at the quoting screen first, and this always wins.
I love it.
Um,
Great.
yeah, and it should be a video. Is there of this one too as
Yeah, I'll
well?
believe it. I'll
Yeah,
believe it when I see it, Steve. I believe it when I
yeah.
see
So
it.
it builds it in Thai, and then it also after it's built, it brings it a link back into front that they're able to click on to go right to. So click right there, that goes straight into the quoting screen and tie, which again has all the other tools in there as well. We also have other types of these that if you want to immediately incorporate your green screens rate, it can autofill that right into the response. You know, some accounts you might just be set up on a quick margin and you don't even have to go look at the rate. It'll still build the quote in tie, but it puts a green screens response right back into the email as well.
Yeah. It's so cool. I think it was fun to just chat with you as you were thinking, well, okay, this would make my, people's lives better if we could do this. And then like, oh, is it possible to do this? Can we pull green screens data and can we get that incorporated in this workflow? And I saw there was a question in the Q&A about that too. And I think we answered that just now. But yeah, it's amazing to see what you've been able to build to accelerate your team's workflows.
Yeah, it's been great. You know, and again, I know we really haven't touched on it yet. I didn't know how to use API a year ago or 18 months ago. Didn't know what parse and array even meant. So all this stuff is really, the tools are there. I got help from, Sean and his team of green screens, uh, uh, Steven at front, Will at highway, we were able to kind of, help me see what I was seeing. Uh, and and the tools the front has it just kind of teed up to help you create these things, and you don't have to be a developer at all. Just have to have good ideas and initiative to try to solve problems or issues.
Yeah. Well said.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that gets both Will and I excited is how do we just lower the barrier to entry to give you the tools to build cool things that map to your workflows? And
Yeah.
yeah, I think Will, that's a great segue to just the space that you live and breathe. And I'll hand it over to you. Please just take us through just your thoughts in general on all this so far, and also just the fraud space. Catch us up to speed.
Yeah. No, I mean, I just to call out again, Steve's hard work and the effort with Front and the team to support that. They've definitely have the framework to do all these really cool things, and it really comes down to, folks like Highway and Tie that have kind of the API endpoints that support a lot of these different functions. So as you're thinking about, technologies to leverage in the future, definitely, have that in mind as you're thinking about connectivity across these ecosystems. Um, yeah, I've just been blown away by some of the stuff Steve and the team has done just from, selfishly just the world that I had to live in for such a long time and the efficiency that, that's created here. And scalability too. And think about training and all that stuff. When you go back to like, I was thinking as you were going through and we were talking about the different apps on screen, I remember we were creating like a training module for our brokerage group. And it was like, okay, what do they need to know in addition to like just the business, right? Like where do they need to go to find information? We had 28 different systems that they either had a login to or they needed to look at or reference this, shared drive or this CRM or what have you. And to see that just get consolidated into like one place, which is where most people have lived for 20 years and are continuing to live, which is within the email space, is just awesome to see. And the fact that you guys are taking it, one step further than just like an email client that's like, oh, cool, I can give you information about what's happening. It's like I can actually action on what's being shown to me, what's being sent to me, and ultimately, how do I operate that may be different. And the really cool thing about this is, especially with like as we talk about our integration and partnership, we've got the great marketplace app there that really does a lot of the core functionality from blocking emails, identifying carriers, and giving you the information kind of on screen and some workflows there. But there's definitely an opportunity to do more within Front, and kind of like Steve said, it just kind of takes the initiative within the broker to kind of want to learn to connect these dots. Sam and our his team and our teams are definitely here to support and help connect the dots for you on what you're trying to do, or if some of that stuff's even possible. So really exciting stuff. I think, in the future as we go here too, there's a lot more information, I think, and workflow stuff that as Highway moves forward with some of the product stuff that we're doing, that really lends itself nicely to the workflows that Steve has put in place and that other brokers utilize daily. So with that, I'll take off the broker hat and put on my freight fighting hat. But yeah, fraud's not going away. I mean, we've seen continual increases, across North America, really, specifically within the states, and ultimately across a lot of different vectors. If you think about how brokers communicate today, it's across many different levels, right? It could be text messages, it could be phone calls, and it could be emails. All of that stuff historically has not been connected to kind of the TMS, right? And so you've had TMS, let me go over here to make sure they're okay. Do I know who that person is? Let me go to Highway to see if they knew who that person is. And so kind of the product that we've got, with Front, and ultimately what we've got with phone systems too, allows really even more efficiency to be created, right? And keep the bad actors at the onset of what we're seeing. But just kind of some Q2 stats from where we're seeing kind of the most impact. Almost 500,000 emails blocked. So that's a fraudulent user that's been working Highway. Well, that could be double brokering, stolen loads, identity theft where that user has stolen somebody's identity. And so there's a lot of activity, and email is probably the most used product in logistics outside of the TMS. And so that's been super, super powerful and really important to kind of protect the networks of our brokers, because that's really the first point of entry in a lot of cases to communication and that relationship that you want to be trusting in, right? But yeah, 42,000 fraudulent phone calls blocked last quarter. Continuing to see that number, rise, whether it's spoofing or other attempts. The big thing related to that is really kind of, additionally sold MCs and really selling all of their entities within that. So there's some things we'll talk about later that we've got to kind of help fight that aspect of the vectors that we're starting to see in the market. But ultimately, stay vigilant. And the biggest things I think, like what Steve's done here, is really bringing that information, from Highway, from the other places, and surface it up to the users in one spot so they can take action on it. I think we can probably jump to the next slide, and Sam, I'll kick it back to you.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks, Will. I think it's just so relevant too, in terms of even just AI and all the different ways there are to impersonate people who you aren't. And so getting this information into the flow of work and making it actionable for people is critical. Um, and yeah, Steve, you were the star of the show. Like, this is something that was on your mind. And this is something that's a common challenge, right? Like manual carrier vetting. Like, how are you doing this before, the current stuff that you're doing today?
Um, well, I mean, I have been in industry long enough to recall like not even getting a carrier packet back, which drove me crazy. I'm like, we don't have, like, I thought we had to get that back, and it's like, oh, we'll get it, So that wasn't that long ago. And then it turned into having at least two windows open to check an MC at two different places, none of which really had any like a yes or no answer. It was sort of just like you said to read it all, and then some things got to where it might give you a suggestion or something, and then you're on the phone or in an email, and like, when do you check that? Do you check it immediately, or do you wait to see if it even matters? Like, are they empty close enough to even, right? So we would have guys that would like say the load was covered, and then they would ask for the MC, and we'd be like, oh no, like, we don't even know if this is good. And other times you're checking MC every time, and you don't even get to talk to the guy. So it was a mess, to say the least. And then, and then this became, you know, as important or more important as anything that we were doing. And it was a mess. So we
Yeah.
had to figure out some ways to make it easier for people to do. It used to be that quoting was complicated, right? And now like quoting seems kind of easy, and then making sure you know who you're talking to is
Yeah.
now a real challenge.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. I mean, you're right. Like, I remember, like, we back, faxed packets back when I started. Unfortunately, you'd fax the carrier packet and be like, "Wow, maybe we got it back, maybe we didn't," or a rate confirmation, like, if it's signed, it didn't. Great. And just kind of being like, just a lot more trusting. Look at a couple sites, see a couple things. Okay, they're on, safer. Everything looks okay. They're active. All right, send me your information. Let's go.
Right, yeah.
Here's the
Yeah.
address. Yeah, it's crazy to think, that we've had to tighten that up. But ultimately, I think, too, it's pushed the transportation industry a little bit more into the modern age, right? With some of the digital connectivity and things like that. Obviously, not as fast as other industries, but I think we're starting to see that take shape, obviously, within the last couple of years, especially with kind of like what we're on the phone or on the Zoom call here talking about today. So, Steve, I'll let you go through this workflow though.
Yeah, so the goal that we had to accomplish, covering was sort of, entry level type thing. That it was the easiest part of the job, as long as you knew the right questions to ask to make sure the guy could actually show up and negotiate a rate, and became the highest risk thing that we were doing. So we had to figure out a way to use a tool like Highway, um, without everybody having to be a highway expert. We had got people that were new, or people that only cover load every once in a while because they were heavying off, but people were out, or then
Yep.
how could they learn all the information that's in Highway, even though it is queued up to pass or fail. There's always some gray areas, and streamline that in a way that anybody could use the tool, and a really strong, like back end with all the rules and everything coming into front and teeing it up very well, allowing you to see some of the issues, tagging it, taking it out in boxes, or just helping to know that the person I'm talking to is okay by seeing a tag or a display that helps them along the way.
Yeah. And really, I think, Will, you said this earlier, but the ability to action on that, like actually get failed carriers into a quarantine inbox. You don't even need to engage with it. We're reducing the noise. Um, and I think,
You said it. You said it. I think it was on the second or third slide, right? Speed is everything in this industry, and like
yeah,
you get caught in that dilemma of speed versus the risk there, and so this just really normalizes everything to where you don't have to slow down and you still get the information. Um,
It, yeah, I felt like I trusted this more than someone hopping in the highway without proper
yep.
training, which was going to happen because guys were going to be covering part time, or new as well. So we were actually stronger, like using all the
Yeah,
API in the
stronger,
background.
faster, right? As
Yeah,
opposed to just kind of relying on, hopefully they pick it up fast enough and that they're smart enough to learn it all because we're throwing a lot at them. Like this is
right.
like,
Yeah, exactly.
you
Yeah.
know, do your
Um,
job and like we're gonna kind of help guide you along on who and who you shouldn't be kind of interacting with. So um, that's huge because usually folks that are doing these types of jobs really want to make a lot of money and cover a lot of freight and move really fast and yeah, this is just it's a great way to be able to slow down that or speed up that training cycle, excuse me.
yeah,
uh,
and really too, to get them back to having a good cover
yeah.
financially, on time, right? Because really it's about the load picking up, at the best rate it can be. So allow the focus to get kind of away from the fraud because of all the tools, and get back to getting a solid cover, which at the end of the day is what we really have to have happen.
Yep. Yep, got to move the freight, otherwise
Right,
I won't be seeing it again.
right.
absolutely.
So yeah, I think we have video here of this live. Um, it does go kind of quick, um, but that's because it's showing the tools starting to take effect. Um, let's see. All right. So here we're going to, well, we kind of skipped ahead here. So this is actually assign the carrier at the end, in a macro, and using the DOT email from Highway, which we'll get back to. So that the video there is a macro I put in that allows us to assign the carrier right from tie. So after we go through the entire process, we're able to add the driver's information, an ETA note, anything that we would manually be putting into tie, and we hit that button there for the macro. It actually emails the rate confirmation from tie. So we're sitting in front and get all the information that we need inside of tie, and it sends the email from tie. So our team is sitting here in front, covering, assigning carrier, and sending Raycon all all in their inbox.
Yeah, I love it. I think that, I mean, gets us to challenge six too. And I guess before we get there too, I will say it's been really cool to learn more about Will and Steve, your partnership. And I think the highway team's just been awesome in the sense of Steve's like, hey, like what if is this data is available here? Could we get this, potentially in the API? And so I think there's a really awesome, partnership there to
Yeah,
build
yeah,
product that's yeah.
and we did that actually as I was creating it. There were some things I met with Will, and I was like, "Hey, we can we get that in there? Because that's really because sometimes I think it was something that would know if they were a victim of fraud or not, compared to me, which is everybody's has been a victim of fraud. It seems like so those warnings were coming up, and it's kind of hard to explain to the team like, well, that's a good fraud alert, that's a bad fraud. Um, but they added in something that I was seeing in highway that made it easy to tell, and that came into front, and you'll see it in here where it allows a carrier who's a pass that had a fraud alert as being a victim that we're still able to use them, and not get archived out of our inbox.
Yep.
So now in video here, um, we'll come in and you can see the emails coming in. Is there maybe that's coming soon? All right.
Or
There's
yeah,
some
I
other
guess.
stats there for Will.
Yeah, I mean, let's get to Raycon and then we can wrap too. But yeah, I think you were touching on this briefly, Steve, when we're assigning that carrier via tie, you know, explain the old world of just the lack of security around your Raycon delivery and email.
Well, even if you were using Highway and talking to someone who was verified, there's still chance, um, especially if they're in Yahoo or Gmail, that they could have been, if they fell for a phishing attack and someone could be impersonating them, and you send them a Raycon, and you never know, until something bad happens, which happened to us literally like right before this tool came out. We emailed to a carrier that we had worked with 2 weeks ago. We thought it was them. It wasn't. Um, Turned into a major issue for us. And had we had the tool where they had to log into Highway, it wouldn't have happened. So we've adopted that as
Yeah.
well. And that way, if it's hard to tell what's coming next, right? So that adds something that even if all these other tools, if they get past it, now we
Yeah.
have this.
No, this in the two biggest things kind of we're seeing right now are sold MCs and compromised inboxes, right? Which fits exactly into this. And if you're going to continue to send rate confirmations over email unprotected, there's likely to be a theft. I mean, it's to the point you just stated, Steve. Like I couldn't have articulated any better. It's like things can get compromised even though they're showing as a verified user. Like there always needs to be that kind of check at the time of transaction. And the secure rate confirmation delivery does exactly that. And yeah, kick it back over to you to kind of demo. We can talk more about it because it's one of the biggest things that we have that really prevents that load level fraud. And even as much as we want to believe that that person we're talking to and that email address is still good, this gives that kind of last shot before you go and give a $250,000 load, or, cargo load or 500K high value load out to somebody that you don't even know through email, which seems strange when we think about our daily lives and us sending large transactions and like here's a PDF of like where you can go pick up all my stuff. it just, yeah, it's just wild. So I'll kick it over to you, Steve, to kind of demo it.
Yeah, and I think here's a quick grab of what the highway interface looks like. But Steve, I think your implementation is really around using that dot email, right? When we're signing in front and then having Ty send out that rate con.
Yeah, so we're yeah, in front, we're able to capture what that email should be. And then it sends a rate confirmation. Um, Again, through a TMS, same workflow. Uh, we were actually on the beta side and help the team decide to just use the same subject line that you use now. So whatever you're emailing your Raycon through subject line, it goes out the same way. So for us, that it took me 10 minutes to update our workflow to bring this right in, still capturing our tie ID. So we have a display in every email chain that shows the account, the status, who the carrier is. And then as they sign in and click confirm, I've actually got workflow coming back into front that then connects back in Tie to help update the status. We were able to jump right in, and if a carrier confirms in highway, it changes the status in front, so our cover team is able to take action and get the tracking sent as well.
I love
And
it.
had great adaptation of this. I feel like the same amount of carriers that wouldn't sign the Raycon and would wait a half hour, then would fall off. It's kind of the same number. Don't know how many of them were fraudulent or not, but at least now we know if they can that we're good, and if they just choose not to, they probably weren't going to sign the other one either.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, and just to hit on something real quick, you mentioned kind of like the DOT number, DOT plus their carrier number at
Yeah,
highway.com. That works for any highway customer to send those rate confirmations in and allow them to, take that user plus, to your point, the subject, any other emails, excuse me, that are on that. We'll get this email that we're looking at here to go view that rate confirmation, and they'll confirm the identity and all of that stuff within highway, and then get access to it. So I mean, like, great point about I got a rate confirmation, they fell off or they didn't fall off, like never really confirmed it. Like this, whether they even came in and verified to look at it or hadn't heard from in 30 minutes. Okay, we know we got to go get this recovered because it ships in 90. And so there's a lot of business efficiency, I think, too, in addition to the protection that's established here, that kind of is a result of the product. So
exactly. Yeah, because you would get that anyway. Where we have to follow up and make sure they like just respond, just say you got it at some point.
right. Or
So
or if it's
really,
a
you
bad
know,
actor and they didn't, they're not getting that rate confirmation, right? So you're not like,
right,
oh, this load. I mean, you send somebody legitimately in there to go pick it up because they did sign it. They go and it's like, well, shipper's saying that load's already taken off. How many times have we heard that one, right? And you're like,
right.
okay, let me go figure this out.
Totally. Totally. And I think we do have a quick video of more of the highway side of things. And Will, I don't know if you want to bring this to light. If we jump in to the piece where we're actually clicking to view the raycon, this is the experience on the other side of things,
Yeah,
right?
moving a little faster, but so look at that email, look at that like we're seeing here on screen. They'll enter in their information for the carrier. They'll identify themselves here. Once they go through, they'll get the authorization code through their two-factor, and compromised inboxes and that they're not going to have the cell phone necessarily. So once they're in and verified, they get redirected into their kind of rate confirmations view for a carrier, and they can go and accept this, and view it all from within Highway, and then we're going to return that back. Depending on the TMS and the integration, we're diligently working across all of our partners to put this in as seamless way as possible into their processes. But ultimately, it could be an API that we're getting from the TMS directly to kind of do this, or like Steve's using, and any highway customer can leverage today, which is that you're sending an email, send it to highway, and the additional folks with however you would send it today. We will put this behind that secure rate confirmation delivery, and additional protections, will be in place there for you. And I think this is the biggest risk that's out there for any broker today that's still sending emails with PDF attachments for freight to go pick up and deliver without any kind of final check there. As much as there maybe is a little bit of friction that gets put in here. The little friction now here is better than a lot of friction later, and a lot of money out the door and litigation and other things that go along with it.
Yeah, well said. It's a little friction goes a long way when it's a large load or something like that. And
Yeah, exactly.
yeah, you wouldn't email a PDF to some stranger. Here's my social and my home address, and this is where I buried my gold, you know?
Right.
So,
Exactly.
I think to your point, like flexible implementation and Steve, it sounds like it was really easy for you to work this into your team's workflow, right?
Absolutely. For us, one coming off it was a pretty easy mandate to make too as well after the issue that we'd had. But in reality, it just jumped right in to what we were doing already pretty much, and didn't have pushback that we were concerned about. Like is this going to make it harder to cover? But it's like they already have to be in highway if we're using them anyway. So it's really been a simple change for us.
Love it. Wonderful. Well, with that, we've got about 9 minutes left. We said there's some Q&A. I've already seen a couple good questions flow in through the Q&A functionality. If you're on the line and you have additional questions, please feel free to drop those in there. Um, First one I have is how hard is all this automation to set up? Do we need a developer? And maybe Steve, I route that one to you. How was it like
Yeah, I mean,
set up?
yeah, I can say no for a fact on that one. Obviously, I had to learn at least how to get it started. Front had some of the basics built out. And then once I could see what information was coming over, I was like, oh, and then I just kind of built my own. Because some things are more important to us than others. I felt like I had a real good concept of highway and everything that, that was in it. We had been, I think, the first broker to go into tie, so we were sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad, but sometimes you get to get things the way you want. So I usually accept that challenge, but felt like, oh, I want to pull this in, this, because some of the things you wanted to maybe show why to help the team out as well. But getting back to it, no basic understanding of how it works, and once you get that idea going, then pick and choose how you want to do it and what you want to use.
Awesome. Yeah, 100%. There's a lot of building blocks at your disposal, and like you're the expert in your business process. And it's then just about how do we map that onto the tools. And again, Will and I
Yeah,
help.
and
Yeah.
from there too, having a good understanding of how front works on like after you get the information, which unfortunately we just learned we weren't able to show the recording that I kept thinking was coming next. But we're using tags and information in front to if a carrier emails in and they're blocked, we don't even see it.
Hmm.
It's gone.
Hmm.
If they're a pass, we actually use an integration with Kai again, and we can send the load information right to the carrier without our team having to touch the email. So if it comes in and pass because of the tags that are applied, and then information that we pull from Ty, our team isn't seeing an email until the carrier that has all the information responds. Uh, and so using that aspect of it as well in front makes it easy once you can pull the information in.
Yeah, awesome. And I'll just add a quick follow on there too. We had a question early on about how do you get those CRM or those notes, and that's a similar from a front perspective. That's a similar integration that Steve has built, where if any system has an API that's a REST-based API, and we can we have a number of different authentication methods that we support. we can push and pull data between those two platforms. And that's some of the behind the scenes stuff that Steve's been able to build out with Front and Highway, which is really cool. So there's a lot to play with there when it comes to the world of possibilities. Um,
Yeah, those are really easy to create. Some of them are already there,
mhm.
so it helps create a template that you're able to just add on to and decide what information is useful to you.
Yeah, couldn't have said it better myself, Steve. You're coming for my job. Um, Will, I got one for you from the Q&A. How do we know if an email is a scam? Is it possible for scammers to access Highway and obtain a rate con?
Yeah, I mean, from a highway perspective and email perspective, it's always going to be from @highway.com as the domain. So if there's any highway related email that you receive that's not from @highway.com domain, likely a scam. As far as the accessing the rate confirmations, are there scammers that can get in there? Unless there's implicit, help from that entity that's in there, right? No, the way that the secure rate confirmation is designed is set up to prevent that unless there's, multiple parties are working together inside of that, organization, um, which ultimately, would shake out there. But typically, you're not seeing any of that within there as far as that last final check there and all the checks that go into place. Good question.
Awesome. Awesome. Um, let's see. Another
And
one.
we're able to call out in that in our email tool if an emailer emails in and they have any fraud associated with any MC, we're pulling that in. It doesn't matter what MC they put in the body. It
Right.
pulls if they, because some guys will keep the same email and just switch MCs, and we're able to see that as well to help, in case they're hopping around and just trying to use a new MC.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, spot on. Um, Another one for you, Will, maybe a little bit more technical, so we might need to take offline, but
Yeah.
a question from Diego. During carrier onboarding, we've seen cases where the process is blocked or flagged because the dispatcher's IP is coming from another country. Considering US carriers outsource dispatch ops internationally, is changing the IP address enough to move onboarding forward? Or, do you have any recommendations around best practices from that kind of IP restriction perspective?
Yeah, so there's very few true IP restrictions, right, from a country perspective. It's typically just kind of what activity has been on that entity previously, right? And so there's probably some additional verification that you can work with our team in support to kind of confirm and kind of work through the process. But we know that folks are going to nearshore and other things like that. So we see a lot of US in those locations kind of within a singular account.
Awesome. Another interesting one too, and maybe Steve will, I'll throw this at both of you, but I think you are both forward-looking folks in the logistics space, thinking about ways to build trust, build relationships, accelerate these motions. Are there any other circles or networks that you'd recommend getting plugged into or involved with for brokers that want to connect with similar partners who value this kind of secure service?
Steve, you want to jump in there first?
Um, yeah, I'm trying to think. Obviously,
Here's your top eight or your top seven. Your mind.
yeah, right, right.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean,
No,
no, I mean, Triumph Pay has been helpful in this aspect for us at times as well. Although we feel like we're keeping everything clean coming in, but any other issues we've had, it's been helpful to have Triumph on the other end of the transactions. And I'm not just saying that because of the recent collaboration there, but that would be probably our strongest other partner.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. I think just kind of from like a general kind of network on like how do you kind of find what's going on in the industry, right? A really, really good one for the freight brokerage world is TIA, TIAnet.org,
Okay.
a great organization. I am a certified transportation broker from way back in the day, so represent that. But yeah, that's a great. There's also some really good groups within LinkedIn and other areas too that are kind of 3PL or kind of technology thinking or forward kind of groups. But happy to connect offline too and discuss kind of anything you've got, related to technology and kind of the space.
Awesome. Yeah, I was going to plug TIA as well. And there's some more questions that we didn't get a chance to answer to, so we'll try and do our best to get back to you offline about those. But Will, Steve, thank you so much for your time and your expertise. Thank you everybody else for tuning in. We hope that this has sparked a light bulb and it gotten you excited about what's possible when it comes to delivering quality service at speed and at scale and securely with highway and front. And again, Steve, thanks again so much for bringing that to light for us.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Steve.
thanks, guys.
All right. Have a great day, everyone. Take
Awesome.
care.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks.